cloudy, wishing me heart it was Sunday. Drinking wine and beer all the week, time for whiskey on a Sunday.
Well, hello everyone, and happy almost St. Patrick's Day. So whether you are joining me live on Instagram tonight, or whether you're catching this installment of my Whiskey on a Sunday series via replay on IGTV or Facebook or YouTube, regardless of how, please know you are all very welcome to join me for this latest segment of Whiskey on a Sunday with me, Some for All. And yes, folks, St. Patrick's Day is indeed almost here. Only 3 sleeps away. Can you believe it? Man, oh man, exciting times ahead. And of course, since we're on the cusp of St. Patrick's Day, with that in mind, I'm going to be talking about and of course tasting an Irish whiskey. This week, it is a relative newcomer, Writer's Tears Copper Pot. However, before we dive in, as always, I do need to ask anyone watching who is not yet of legal age to drink, consume, enjoy, read about, learn about, study about alcohol where they live to now sign off. Alrighty, so I just mentioned before that this is a relative newcomer. And, not in the whiskey scene, but that's in regards to the availability in North America. Writer's Tears has been available in Ireland and parts of the UK since 1999, but only lately have we seen it here in the last couple of years, so relative newcomer to our market. So Writer's Tears, what about it? It's produced by Walsh Whiskey, owned by Bernard and Rosemary Walsh, but right away I have to clarify, because there's a little confusion out there with some folks, I have to clarify that Walsh Whiskey are not distillers. Well, not anymore. To better understand that, let's go back to 1999 and kind of start at the beginning. So in 1999, Rosemary Walsh created a ready-made adult Irish coffee beverage type drink that she called the Hot Irishman. So that was a drink, I don't think we saw it here in North America, but over in the UK and parts of Europe, it was available. It was a drink that contained Colombian coffee, dark brown sugar, and Irish whiskey. All the consumer had to do after you bought the Hot Irishman, all you had to do at home was add some boiling water and then top it off with some whipped cream if you wanted, and then you'd have a tasty drink. And again, it sold like gangbusters. I mean, this thing was so popular that Rosemary's husband, Bernard, he needed to spend days upon days upon days researching and sourcing quality whiskey stock for their recipe and for that drink. So, spending so much time looking at whiskey and researching and trying to learn about it, that sparked an interest and a passion for Bernard to try his own hand at distilling. And with an investment from a now former Italian business partner, it led to the Walshes having laid the foundation for Royal Oak Distillery being created. And then subsequent to that, they created 2 brands at the same time. One brand called the Irishman, which we see here in North America, very popular throughout the world, and the one I'm talking about today, Writer's Tears. So now, when Walsh Distillery or Walsh Whiskey, when that was formed, and when the groundwork was laid for the distillery to be made, it was the first new distillery in Carlow, Ireland, in over 200 years. However, somewhat recently, there was a dissolution of the partnership between the Walshes and their investor. And with that dissolution, the investor retained the distillery. They kept the naming rights to the brands, but the investor got the actual distillery. So, all that being said, now whiskey that was being produced at the distillery, because it was up and running, but that whiskey wasn't yet ready to be used for any of the products such as the Irishman or Writer's Tears, right? Because there are some Irish laws and you have to wait and you've got to do different things. So with the fact that the partnership is gone and Royal Oak is now no longer part of the Walsh world, it's not going to have any impact on the flavor of Writer's Tears or the Irishman. And what the Walshes are going to do is what they've been doing all along in anticipation of having their own distillery, is they're going to continue to source whiskey for their stocks. Essentially, in my opinion, this really makes them more bonders or bottlers. They're certainly not distillers anymore. And again, there's been some confusion on that front, so I want to be clear again for anyone watching. The Walsh whiskey does not distill on their grounds. They don't distill, period. They instead, they buy supply from other distilleries, but that supply has been made to their specific recipe specifications. And to be fair, I have to be fair, up on the bottle itself, they're upfront about this. The print is a little bit small, but it does say that the whiskey in the bottle has been distilled, matured, and bottled for Walsh whiskey. So it doesn't really say distilled on there. Okay. So folks, that's the story behind the distillery, quote unquote. So now what about the name, Writer's Tears? Well, both the name and the style of whiskey draws inspiration from 19th century Ireland. Lots of folks, including the Walshes, tend to call this a modern take on older, more traditional Irish whiskey. And by virtue of that, they mean that the Writer's Tears follows Irish whiskey recipes that were prevalent in the 19th century, such as using only 100% barley in the whiskey stocks. So there's no grain whatsoever in this bottle, in any of their whiskeys. As for the actual name, well, the story goes that in the 19th century, Irish poets and Irish writers, when they were battling severe writer's block, they found that they would drink a little bit of Irish whiskey, that would spark their creative juices, and when those juices started flowing, they would cry tears of joy. Okay, so no doubt that's 100% marketing, but it's a fun little tale nonetheless. Okay, so the background is out of the way. Let's start focusing now on the whiskey itself. So we do know that it's produced off-site, right? They're bonders, bottlers, they're not distillers. And this whiskey is also technically a blend, kind of a hybrid, kind of a blend. You can choose the word you want. What it is it's a makeup of 40% triple distilled single malt, which there's a lot of buzz that the stock comes from Cooley. I can't validate that, and the Walshes keep that pretty tight, but it's thought to come from Cooley. And then 60% of the whiskey in here is triple distilled single pot that is believed to come from Middleton. So again, there's no grain that's used in here. Again, that alone is a throwback to 19th century Irish whiskey and how it was made back then, when mostly only 100% barley was used. Exceptions here or there. Now, just some reminders. I talked about 40% single malt. Single malt means that single malt whiskey in Ireland has 100% malted barley produced at only one single distillery and produced via a pot still. While single pot means that the whiskey is again only produced at one distillery, but it's done using a mix of both malted and unmalted barley, and again by pot still type of distillation method. Right? Okay. Hopefully you're still with me. So the whiskey itself, 40% ABV, and it's been matured in flame-charred former American oak bourbon barrels. So a little bit different there, but I'm starting to see that more and more. But that's how it's been matured. Now, no length of time is known for that maturation. Again, they keep these things really under wraps. Additionally, you'll notice if you see the bottle either here or you see it on the shelves or online, there's no age statement on the whiskey. But we know from Irish whiskey laws or Irish whiskey specification that for you to be able to call it Irish whiskey, amongst a few other things, the age of the whiskey has to be at least 3 years old. I'm thinking that, like these guys, it's likely a little more than that, but I couldn't find any info to tell me that it's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. So we know at the very least it's 3. I'm going to probably guess around 5 if I had to throw a dart. So the color, it's got nice color on it, coppery amber in color. So very apropos for copper pot Irish whiskey. On the nose, now we're going to acclimatize our nose. Remember, we're going to do our whiskey greeting, three steps. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. I hope you smell delicious. All right, so now our nose is ready, our olfactory senses are all ready. We bring it up, we go away and we take a good sniff. So what do we find? Medium intensity on the nose, lots of apple pop out. So green apple, red apple, apple cider kind of comes to mind as well. And I'm getting a little orange peel in there and some sweet malt, makes sense. It's a little bit of a nose tickle. It's a little estery. There's some nuttiness as well in here. Almond, Brazil nut coming through. I'm getting some wildflower honey, a little salty minerality, some cream, some custard, a little vanilla, soft caramel, and a little toasty yolk. So, fair bit going on in the nose. All right, so now we're going to go in. I'm going to take a little taste. Remember, take a taste and you want to swish it around, coat your 5 flavor receptors in your mouth. All right, so fairly light and fairly smooth as a mouthfeel. Apple comes back again. So crisp baking apples, or apples you would use in baking. There's some pear I'm picking up. I get a little raisin, some fresh grass, and malty notes. That sweet malted barley, sweet malt kind of note coming through. Some nuttiness, some hazelnut, almond comes to mind. And then the tip of my tongue, getting a little zippiness. So not overpowering, but just a little zippiness. So to me, I'm getting a little ginger, a little black pepper, graham cracker, pie crust note coming through, fresh cream, some brown sugar, a little almost vanilla ice cream, which is interesting. And again, rounding out the palate, some toasted wood, toasted oaky kind of notes. Not unpleasant at all. The finish, I'm going to say it's borderline short in length of time, right? Borderline short, but there is some lingering green apple, almond, malt, and soft caramel coming through. Overall, what does Somm for All think? I think it's very easy to drink. And with those sweeter type notes that are kind of more dominant, it's very easy for me to see why this is a popular choice for many people. I mean, it's won tons of awards. Folks that follow me, you know what I think of awards and all that marketing stuff. But it is a popular whiskey and kind of easy to see why. I wouldn't say it's a starter whiskey. However, I would suggest though that this is a good example maybe to try for someone who's looking to maybe move on from those popular kind of entry level, widely available in pubs and bars Irish whiskies. I'm not going to name names. Some of them I've already reviewed. You know the ones I'm talking about. So if you want to step up from that, I think this may be a good way to go. Okay, so if you've liked what you've heard me describe and tell the story and what I've smelt and what I've tasted, and if you like that and you want to try it, good news. If you're in Ontario, you can find it fairly easily at the LCBO. Stock number 13057. Normally retails for $52.95 for a 700 milliliter bottle. But currently, as of 3 days before St. Patrick's Day, it's on sale for $3 off. So $49.95 gets you a 700 milliliter bottle for a limited time. For me, that price is okay. It's at the high end of a range that I'm happy with for what I'm tasting and smelling. I'll be honest, I'd be a little crabby if this was $60 or higher, based on my palate and my expectations of what an Irish whiskey should be. But hey, folks, again, all subjective. That's just me. And at $52.95, the regular price, I still think it's fair. The higher end of fair, but I think it's fair in my opinion. If you live in Quebec, the SAQ has it, stock number 141-80410, $50.25 at the SAQ, again a 700 milliliter bottle. And for my friends and viewers in the good old US of A, I've seen it listed on different websites with a range between 30 and 35 USD. So, you know, that's a pretty good price point for my friends in the States, in my opinion. All right, big deep breath, and folks, that's actually a wrap for this latest installment of Whiskey on a Sunday. So again, regardless of whether you are live with me here on Instagram this Sunday evening, we started at about 8:01 p.m., or if you're catching this segment on video replay, regardless, I do want to sincerely thank you for spending some time with me. And I do hope that you've enjoyed my look and my taste of Writer's Tears. Just a heads up, next week, Whiskey on a Sunday will be a pre-recorded segment. I'll be sharing more details about that through all my social media channels. So, you know, be sure to check me out on Instagram and Facebook to see what's happened with that. But it's going to be pre-recorded. For tonight, I want to wish you all a very happy early St. Patrick's Day. You know, folks, enjoy celebrating the majesty of art and scenery, its history, and of its people, and of course, celebrate Ishkabaha, the Emerald Isle's own water of life. Do so safely. Stay safe. Stay well. Agus Slán go fáil from Psalm for All.